Hello, this is Zach and Rock from SquadCast, and we're here today to talk about 3 ways to engage with your audience. So Zach, we're always looking for ways to engage with our fellow podcast friends, but how do podcasters engage with their audience, their listeners rather? What are the top 3 ways?
Yeah, the first one is email and social media. I think we can all agree those are good channels. We can go a little bit deeper on how to use those to your advantage. Number 2 would be meetups and conferences. So kind of on the micro and the macro of engaging with the community in podcasting. And then number 3 is to kind of flip the script and listen to your audience. So Rock, email and social, what can we do to use those to our full advantage?
So despite what some people might say, we found that email is indeed not dead. People are still reading this stuff, and it's a good way to really build up an audience and continue to keep them updated on what's going on with you when new content's released and try new things. But maybe our favorite besides email is meetups and conferences. So we attend a lot of those. And what are the benefits that we think podcasters can gain from going to that?
Yeah, the meetups, you can learn a ton and really practice your pitch with other podcasters who are in your local community, get to know them, help each other out, talk about different practices and gear or different strategies for growing your listenership. All these different topics, as well as people who run the meetups are usually people who care very deeply about podcasting, and they go out of their way to find great speakers and venues to have these events at. And then conferences are amazing. So it's that same meetup, but that's usually 2 hours or so. This is like a conference is like 3 days of that, and going much deeper on these individual topics, seeing many guest speakers. And again, the community is really well represented at the major podcast conferences. So Podcast Movement, Podfest, She Podcast Live is coming up. So all very good events to learn a lot about podcasting. And the people who put those events on put their heart and soul into it for those 3 days. So really look into those opportunities for conferences. And then number 3 was what?
Number 3 is to actually listen to your audience. So it might be the hardest to do because we're, as podcasters, tend to speak, and it's a very, you are the show in a lot of ways. But one of the beauties about podcasting is that you get to grow this really intimate audience. So why don't you use that to your advantage and listen to what they say? Now this can be interviewing them or reaching out to them via email and stuff like that. Just getting them on the phone and calling to them, speaking with them a little bit, but actually listening to them. They'll tell you a lot. You learn a lot of where they're coming from, why they listen to you, and it's kind of why it keeps us going, right? When you hear those stories of how we've made impact on people's lives just because of our podcast. So those are the top 3 ways that we see that podcasters can engage with their audience. It's through email and social media, which is pretty typical, but then also going to these local meetups or conferences. And then the third, probably the hardest to do, but the most important, is to listen to your audience. That's Zach. I'm Rock.
Thank you.